Hello, happy Monday. My name is Cali Black here with your Big Picture Monday. These videos are meant to give you short overviews of what is going on in the scriptures for this week's Come Follow Me reading, because when you know what is actually happening, the story part, then your mind is freed up to be able to find those spiritual lessons and listen to the promptings of the Spirit and what's really jumping out to you as you read and study instead of having to worry about all that comprehension. So I'm here to take care of that comprehension for you. I hope you had a great first week last week, but I also know that it was kind of a crazy week last week with just finishing up Christmas, transitioning to New Year's. People are out of school. It's insane. So if you are just joining us this week, no worries at all. I would highly suggest you go back and at least read those last two chapters that we studied because they are so good. So good doctrinally. But if not, no worries. Join us where we're at. Come Follow Me is all about making scripture study work for you. So if it's adding on guilt and shame, that's not going to be super helpful. Just have it work wherever you're at. And if you need to join us this week, you can. This week, we are talking about the creation. It is a very famous, popular story that you've heard, I'm sure, many of times. And people around the whole world are familiar with it. So it's kind of fun to study this and then also think like, how does the creation story apply to my life? And I'm excited to share those on my Instagram page this week and on my podcast, 1 Minute Scripture Study, with those daily episodes. But this week we are studying 6 chapters, which might sound like a lot, but here's the deal. We are studying Genesis chapters 1 and 2, which tells the creation story in Genesis. We are studying Moses chapters 2 and 3, which tells the exact same creation story, but in Moses. And we're studying Abraham chapters 4 and 5, which tells the exact same creation story in the book of Abraham. So we are getting 3 different accounts of the creation. And I have to tell you, they're very similar. If you're like looking for dramatic differences between these 3 accounts, you're not going to find them. You are going to find little differences, and I'll tell you about them in just a sec here. But just heads up, you are getting the same story 3 times. I actually recommend reading them in the order in which I just said. Start with the Genesis account, then do Moses, and then do Abraham, and I'll tell you why as well. Now, the book of Genesis, we are in the Bible. Hello, welcome to the Bible. Since last week, we were just in the Pearl of Great Price. The book of Genesis, when we're talking about the Old Testament, we don't know for sure who the author is, but this is usually contributed to Moses. Don't know if you know that, but if you go to someone else who's not of our faith and you say, oh, the books of Moses, they're going to think you're talking about Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, the first 5 books in the Old Testament. Those are generally attributed to Moses as the author. Scholarly, it gets a little murky. It's pretty clear that other people contributed to the accounts as well, but still, it seems like we're getting it from Moses' point of view. Now, well, from Moses telling the story, not from his point of view, but he is recounting this. Now, we also then, as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, have the book of Moses within the Pearl of Great Price, where we get another account. So when we're in the book of Genesis, this is going to seem very traditional. This is your traditional like narration of God did this, God said, let there be light, and God created this. And it's just this third person narration. We're learning what God did as the world was created, and then as Adam and Eve were created and the Garden of Eden. That's what we're getting. When you read the account in the book of Moses in the Pearl of Great Price, one little shift you're going to see is that it's pretty clear that Moses is listening on the mount. Remember last week we learned Moses is up on the mountain and God is teaching him. This is still that same experience for Moses. He's up on the mountain and God is teaching him about the creation. And so we actually read in first person from God. So we're seeing, I, God, created this. I, God, did this. I, God, said this. So that's just a little tweak that you'll see between the Genesis account and the Moses account. Is Moses, you'll see, I did this, because it's like we're hearing Moses's recording of the Lord teaching him these things and telling him what he actually did. And then in the book of Abraham, remember, this is a record of a big vision that Abraham had with the Lord. Same thing, Abraham's asking all these questions, and so the Lord's showing him things, and one of the things is the creation of the world. In this account, it's very unique because we get the sense that there was planning done before the creation occurred. Everything that happens has this kind of narration of it was planned and then it happened. And then you'll also notice it talks about what the gods did. Yes, that was a plural word that I just said. The gods, and what the gods created and what the gods said. So that's kind of an interesting little twist to the story. Now, at the core of it all, though, we get the same exact story. We are getting the creation. We are learning about each day of the creation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then the accounts give us day 7 and what happened on day 7 and the rest. And then we learn about the Garden of Eden, Adam being created first, a few things that Adam was asked to do, and then Eve being created and them being commanded to cleave to one another. And that's the story that we get. You're going to get it in 3 different ways. That's why I recommend going in that order. Start with Genesis, because that's the most generic, popular account that we have. Then move to Moses, because then you get a little more personalized from the Lord as to what the Lord did. And then end with this interesting idea of there being a council of gods who is planning and then executing this plan as well. And also the book of Abraham clarifies that when we talk about a day, we're talking about the time in Kolob, which we learned last week that a day in Kolob is like 1,000 years here on earth. So just an interesting clarification as well there. That's it for this week, okay? 3 different creation stories. They're not that different, but they are a little bit different. I think my personal focus question for this week is going to be, what am I creating in my life right now? And do I like that? Or do I need to change some things? Because that is a beautiful power that we're all given, the power of creation. And that comes in many different forms. So I'm excited to dive into that. If you have your study guides, I have given you a whole bunch more details as for each chapter, how each chapter is unique and what you can look out for in each one. I've given you background information about Adam and Eve and different things about them, since we're getting introduced to Adam and Eve this week. And then, of course, spiritual questions so that you can practice applying these scriptures, even when it seems like, how are we applying the creation? I don't know how this works. There's still some really good lessons to learn. And then don't forget to tune into the 1 Minute Scripture Study podcast each day. Kristen and I will be sharing what we're learning as well. And follow me on Instagram at Come Follow Me Study, and I'm sharing each day what is working for me, but I also love hearing the lessons that you're learning as well. Okay, that is it this week. I hope you have a fantastic week studying about the creation, one of the pillar events in the history of the entire world, and really thinking about how does this common story change who I am right now. Okay, have a great week and happy studying.